The switch is already up when the hand leaves it. The light stays on. It hums without sound. It does not flicker. It does not change. The room settles around it the same way it always does. Corners soften. Shadows pull back just enough to show where things are, not what they mean. The light holds. A person remains near the wall for a moment longer than needed. Not moving. Not deciding. The light stays on after midnight. It has done this before. It will do it again. The person steps away. Slow. Careful. As if the floor might respond. Nothing responds. The light spreads across the same surfaces it touched yesterday. The same marks. The same quiet. It reaches a chair that is not being used. A table that holds nothing important. A door that stays closed. The light does not lean. It does not follow. It simply remains. The person returns to the same spot, then stops again. Hands rest at the sides. Breath evens out. Waiting takes a shape when the light is on like this. Not heavy. Not urgent. Just present. The light keeps the dark from fully arriving. That seems to matter. Time passes without being named. The light does not acknowledge it. The person does. A small adjustment. A shift of weight. Then stillness again. The light fills the space between moments. Between actions that do not happen. The person looks toward the light without really looking. The body stays angled toward it, as if something might arrive through that brightness. Nothing arrives. The light continues. Outside of it, the dark waits patiently. Inside of it, the room holds its breath. The person sits down without sound. Not fully resting. Not fully ready. The light stays on. It has been left on before for reasons that no longer need explaining. Tonight feels close to those nights. The person does not reach for the switch. Not yet. The light hums without sound. It keeps the space awake. It keeps something open. And the waiting stays unfinished. The light is still on. It has not changed its tone. It has not grown tired. The person moves through the room the way this part always goes. The same path. The same pauses. A hand brushes the edge of the table. Not to adjust anything. Just to confirm it is there. The light watches without watching. The chair is pulled out a little. Pushed back again. Left where it started. This happens often when the light stays on this long. The person stands. Then sits. Then stands again. Time passes by repetition, not by clocks. The light understands this better than the person does. The room warms slightly under the steady glow. Not enough to feel different. Just enough to stay the same. The person exhales, then waits through the space before the next breath. The light fills that space easily. Some nights the switch is tested. Not flipped, just touched. Tonight, the hand stops short. The light keeps going. There's a routine to this waiting. It is not written down. It does not need to be remembered. The person turns toward the door, turns back again. This has happened before. It happens without comment. The light stretches across the floor in a familiar shape. Edges known by heart. Nothing surprising. A sound almost forms. It does not arrive. The person remains where the light is strongest. Not centered. Just close enough. Minutes loosen their grip. They slip past unnoticed. The light does not mark them. The person shifts weight again. The floor holds. Waiting continues because it knows how. The light has learned this rhythm. On. Still. On. The room does not ask what is being waited for. Neither does the person. There is comfort in how little changes, in how the light refuses to answer anything. The chair is finally used. Only the edge. Only for a moment. Then stillness returns. The light stays on after midnight as part of the habit now. As if midnight has been crossed more than once already. The person remains. Nothing arrives. Nothing leaves. The light continues to hold the space together. And time, whatever it is doing, keeps moving without being seen. The light stays on, and something older moves closer. Not in the room. Not fully. The person sits where the glow thins near the edge. Close enough to be held. Far enough to feel the dark pressing in. This position has meaning, though it is never stated. The light reaches the wall and stops. It has always stopped there. Beyond that line, things remain untouched. The person's hands come together, then separate. Nothing is held. Nothing is checked. The waiting shifts. It no longer belongs only to tonight. The light reveals a small mark on the floor. It has been there a long time. It was made during a moment that never finished. The person notices it again. As always. As if seeing it might change something. The light does not react. There was once a night when the light was turned off too early. Not this light. Another one. Long gone. The body remembers that moment without words. A pause that should have lasted longer. A step that should not have been taken. The person adjusts in the chair. Wood creaks softly. The sound fades. The light remains steady. Unaware of what it brings back. Waiting opens a narrow space. Memory slips through it quietly. There was a time when a room felt incomplete for a different reason. When the light waited with someone else in mind. That time did not finish properly. It was interrupted. Left hanging. The person breathes in. Stops. Breathes out. The light fills the gap between breaths the same way it always has. Some habits begin as choices. Others begin as corrections that never quite correct anything. The light staying on is one of those. The person looks toward the switch again. Not with urgency. With recognition. Turning it off would feel like ending something that never had an ending. Leaving it on feels closer to honesty. The light continues, offering no guidance. The past does not arrive fully. It circles. It stays unfinished. The person remains seated, hands still now. Waiting deepens. The light stays on after midnight, not to keep the room awake, but to keep something from being closed. Nothing resolves. The light does not dim, and the unfinished part stays exactly where it has always been. Quiet and still waiting. The light is still on. It has outlasted the part of the night that usually feels important. Now it simply remains. The person no longer watches it directly. The body has settled into a quieter kind of waiting. One that does not lean forward. The chair holds the weight without complaint. The floor stays firm. The room does not change its shape. The light continues to keep the dark from fully closing in. Not pushing it away. Just holding the line. This feels familiar. The person rests both feet flat now. Hands lie open. No tension left to release. Waiting loosens slightly. Not enough to disappear. Just enough to breathe. The light touches the same places it always has. The table edge. The corner of the wall. The space beneath the door. Nothing moves there. The idea of turning the switch off drifts through and passes. It does not stop. It does not settle. Leaving the light on no longer feels like effort. It feels like a pause that has learned how to stand on its own. Time moves again. Quietly. Not measured. Not resisted. The person remains seated, eyes open but resting. The room feels less like it is waiting for something to happen, and more like it is waiting to be left as it is. The light hums without sound. Steady. Patient. Something has been released, but only halfway. Enough to soften the edges. Not enough to close the door. The person leans back slightly. Not surrendering. Not preparing. Just being. The light stays on after midnight. Then beyond it. Not as a signal. Not as a reminder. It stays because it has been allowed to. Outside of the room, the dark continues its quiet work. Inside, the light keeps a small space open. The person does not stand, does not sleep. Waiting changes shape again. Less sharp, less demanding. The light remains. And in that steady glow, something is not held as tightly anymore. Though it is not fully let go. The night continues. The light stays on. And the waiting, though softer now, does not end. There are things no one says out loud. Not because there is nothing to say, but because saying it might change everything. If this story feels familiar, perhaps you understand it better than most.